WGVU's Jennifer Moss talks with Tarita Johnson from Economic Development Center, The Right Place, about her plans to bring tech jobs to Grand Rapids.
Tarita Johnson, Senior Vice President of Talent and Diversity with The Right Place. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And we are excited to have you. So you are very busy working at The Right Place and beyond to try to level that playing field in the tech industry. At the end of Kylie's piece on WMCAT, she noted that as tech continues to emerge, it's important that all communities have access to those jobs. And that's one of the things you're seeking to do at The Right Place, correct?
Absolutely. We have a huge initiative that in the next 10 years, we'd like to be able to create 20,000 jobs in tech. And that's for everybody. So the inclusion piece is extremely important.
Okay, and you're working on that. You have some stats that tell us and or show us that by 2045, the racial minority population is going to increase 142%. Hispanic populations by about 130%. Blacks show a 42% increase. Now, as the tech industry continues to grow by leaps and bounds, what are some of the plans or the ideas to level, again, that playing field for persons of color? Is it education, or in some cases, is it just awareness that there needs to be diversity in the employment gaps in that field?
Honestly, it's all of it, and it's really creating both a short and long-term talent strategy and looking at everyone, K through 12, looking at our community colleges, our four-year institutions, as well as our communities and folks that are currently in the workplace, and making sure that we upscale talent. All of it is important, making sure that each of those different populations have awareness of the type of jobs, have the education, and have the accessibility to those opportunities.
So what are some of the things you all are doing? Are you going into the schools? What are we doing? When you mention education, what part of that, or how are we making that happen? Are we going into schools, colleges, K through 12? Tell me about that.
A little bit of all. I think one of the things that The Right Place is really good at is being a convener. So this is where everybody it takes a village. So really convening a lot of our strategic partners across all of those different entities, not just education, but also our employers and our community-based organizations, as well as our workforce organizations, and coming together to really create strategy. So for instance, one of the things at The Right Place we created was My Talent 360. It's a talent assessment. This is for employers to look at their employer brand. Is it inclusive for everyone? As well as how they source and recruit talent, as well as how they retain talent. We partnered with Talent First to create this assessment, as well as with several other economic development organizations throughout the regions, and even a partnership with our workforce development orgs like West Michigan Works and so many others to really help organizations assess where they are in these areas, but also provide best practices and resources for them.
And again, that retention piece is huge. I've read a number of articles talking about, Michigan wants to be a tech hub, right? I mean, at some point, like really the place to be, the place to go. But we need to not only access and get the information out to pull in persons of color, but also to retain them, correct?
Absolutely. And there's so many different strategies around retentions, but it really takes organizations taking a hard look within and saying, is this inclusive? Do we have policies and procedures that everybody could adhere to? Do we have compositional diversity, or really not just composition, diversity throughout? So from your board, from your leadership, every level, so that folks can see themselves within these organizations? Or are you trying to do it? Do we have policies and practices that are accommodating for folks that maybe they've had a child or they're re-entering the workforce? So there's so many different areas, and that's why the assessment really helps them to take a laser focus at it and give them best practices so they can start wherever they are to build an inclusive and environment that is for really everyone.
And as you look at that, what have you found thus far as it relates to potential numbers of those who are employed in the tech field in West Michigan or in Grand Rapids?
Honestly, the numbers from a racial diversity perspective are bleak. You know, when we look at Hispanic talent, I would say right now about 4%, anywhere from 4 to 6% in tech fields. Our Black talent is right around that 4%. Our Asian demographic is a little bit higher, about 8%. So, and in our other ethnic groups, even lower than 1%. So we have work to do, and I think it really comes from educating and awareness, making sure that we're really addressing these pipelines in the right way.
Because, I mean, when you look at those numbers, I mean, the term you use is bleak. What are some of the things that we can do to make people maybe even want to be in the tech field? Because if they know the numbers are bleak, a lot of times that information kind of puts people aside like, that's not for me.
Right. Well,
And I'm not going to look in that field because I have less chance of being hired.
they've got to see themselves, right? And there's some folks in the community that's doing really great work. So when I think of STEM Greenhouse, for instance, Dr. Kelly Christopher is really training young talent in the STEM fields, and she's basing that training in math and science and technology, but also rooting it in identity. So she's hitting a lot of these populations. So I think being able to scale her program and get her into more schools and increase her summer programs and after school programs. When I think of organizations such as WMCAT, same thing. Let's scale what they're doing. They have a cybersecurity program. We know that there's going to be a big need in cybersecurity. There's so many other organizations, you know, that I'm even a part of, like West Michigan Tech Talent, that is really looking at these access and barriers and how do we remove barriers. Really, I think we have so many wonderful organizations here, but how do we connect them and we all play together in the sandbox to make sure that everybody is getting the information, the resources, and the training that they need? Like our community-based organizations. We have wonderful groups like our Urban League, our Hispanic Center, our Hispanic Chamber that have opportunities to train right on site. Just yesterday, I was at the Women's Resource Center. They work with over 600 women a year, and they have a computer lab and a learning management system to upscale them in technology. What about expanding those type of programs? Are employers really working with organizations such as those to like amplify what they're doing throughout the community?
And those things are key. And those are the things that will make it a success, all the things that the right place is trying to do. But you're also trying to facilitate those conversations, correct?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the biggest thing, is to, like you said, kind of connect the dots so that everyone plays together.
Right. I think, you know, when we look at our institutions, like we work a lot with our community colleges. We have great facilities at our Grand Rapids Community College and all of the others in the region. But think about here, even GVSU, when I think of the HBCU and HSI consortium. You have students that are actually coming here from schools that have a diversity majority. We need to keep that talent here. So we need more employers to participate, like in your Talent Link program. We need other institutions to have programs such as that where they're paying scholarship funds as well as wage, and having them actually work on site from their first year all the way throughout until they graduate. It's really about relationships. Last week I was at another event for Calvin University. They are putting a campus in the 49507 district, so that, and it's going to be almost free for students to be a part of that. So when we have institutions like Grand Valley and Ferris and so many others around in Calvin that are doing things to really impact the community, how do we tie these things together? And that's where I think the right place can really help to bridge the gap and bring these entities together.
Wrapping that thought, 3, 5, 10 years, what would you like to see?
Oh my gosh. I would love the tech sector to be reflective of the community. And I would like us to have a global perspective on that. So we see everybody. If you're a little girl, a little boy, or whoever you are, you can see yourself reflected in the tech sector in all levels, all the way up to board levels and C-suite. That would be, you know, my dream.
Good last word. Tarita Johnson with The Right Place. Thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.